Then from the darkness came the manna, and with the manna, the visions. We were not alone. There were other worlds, other tribes, moving through the heavens like a plague. They would destroy us. Alone in the tribe, I possessed the second sight. The manna flowed through me like fire, unleashing the magic within. The ancient legends had foretold my coming. I was the one destined to lead. The chosen one. The shaman. The time for peace was behind us. Now was the time for war! We would face powerful magic, the fury of the elements. Some would live, many would die. But with faith and courage, we would destroy our enemies. And I would become a god.
Carl and Damon here from Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. Let's talk about a specific game. We're going to talk about Populous: The Beginning, the 1999 strategy game from Bullfrog. A weird one to be talking about, you might think. Why the hell would you randomly choose this game? Because there's no secret. It's up there, or up is your favourite game of all time?
Yeah, it's definitely in my my top. If I had a top 10, I would have it in my top 10 easily. I wouldn't say it's my favourite because if I had a choice between like that and Mass Effect, I'd play Mass Effect.
Right.
You know,
would you though?
If
someone came, if I came to you and said you can only play one of these games for the rest of your life, I was got to go. Really, I would think you would. I would expect you to choose Populous.
But technically, they're different sort of style games.
Doesn't matter if they're different styles of game. If I say to you, okay, one of these is going away forever, the other, like you can never be able to play Mass Effect or Populous or anything, ever again.
I would have to get rid of Mass Effect only because the fact that
that's what I would think.
Populous has been my childhood, my adulthood, and even now, So I as much as I love Mass Effect, I would go for Populous.
So this is why we're talking about this specific game, is because you have this, dare I say, obsession with it,
yeah,
love of it that I can't quite relate to. This is a game I played a lot as well. This is a game I have enjoyed, but I certainly haven't touched it in a very, very long time, and I have no interest in going back to, truth be told, because outside of probably playing it on a PC, the idea, I haven't forgotten its PlayStation experience. I haven't, and that still makes me laugh that A, we were willing to put up with that back in the day, but also that you would think that that's okay to still experience. So let's talk about this specific aspect before we get into some of the more nuanced elements of your experience and my experience. Populous: The Beginning should never have been released on PlayStation 1. It's good that it was, because we've both got to play it and you've grown this lifetime love of this game, specifically more than any other strategy game, I'd say. Yeah. Although you have a lot of love for other strategy games, Command & Conquer, Warcraft and things like that, there's nothing that quite has been Populous.
No, I said I love building games and effectively open world games. I love them, and this game here, I don't know what it is about it. It just it's this game was designed for me.
It's comforting, right? At this stage, right? So it's a comfort blanket more than anything else.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think we all have games like that where you. It's often anything that's got nostalgic value as well will always give you that comfort blanket feel. Okay, but. Right, so PlayStation 1, it should never have been released on PlayStation 1. The reason why I say that is because it did not run well. At all. In fact, it suffered some of the most tremendous lag that you would ever see in a game, to the point where it's near unplayable.
Yeah.
I laugh sometimes in my head when I think about this game that we thought, not that we thought it was okay, but that we put up with that we continue to play that game is hilarious. It took every single space of a memory card. Now, we're going back here, folks, but for all you kids out there, back in the day on PlayStation, to save your games, you needed to have these little things that were about that size called memory cards. The official ones, and then, of course, a ton of unofficial ones. Unofficial ones would be bigger, larger, and all that, and often garish, but came with a risk. You could spend £15 on an official memory card. I have no idea if that's how much it cost. I don't think they were too expensive, but I don't think they were too cheap. No. Or you could spend £5 on an unofficial one. The official one would give you 15 spaces. The unofficial one would give you 30. But the unofficial one would be dodgy, to say the least. Like, immediately you'd pick it up and it'd rattle, and you'd be like, well, that's not a good sign. Having had my share of unofficial memory cards and seeing the data get corrupted made me realise never to buy that. It's the same thing about controllers to a degree, although I do think modern controllers are heavily overpriced. It's the same difference between spending £50 on a modern official controller and 10 on a third-party controller.
Use the tornado spell to destroy the enemy and their buildings before they have a chance to react.
So yeah, 15 spaces, the entire memory card. But that is still not enough. It would take about 5 minutes-ish, 5 to 6 minutes to save or load the bloody game. This was not designed... I'm actually kind of amazed that he actually managed to put it on a disc in the end, considering all these problems. It's insane that it even exists. But for some reason... couldn't get enough of it back in the day.
Nope.
I know why, though. So we've always, and this is a we, I think, always had a lot of love for real-time strategy games.
Yep.
Those were hard to find playing consoles. I didn't have PCs. Couldn't afford a PC back in the day. So there was no playing and there was no jumping in there and enjoying it. So the minuscule amount of real-time strategy games that were available to us on PlayStation 1, we snapped up, we ate up.
Yep.
And we are talking, Command & Conquer, Red Alert, and so on. Warcraft 2, The Dark Saga. And that's where we've almost run out.
That's it.
Warzone 2100, which was kind of strategic, but not quite the same thing.
Didn't put a lot. I mean, I played it, but didn't put a lot of time into that.
For some reason, I always remember that as being like one of your favourite, but maybe I got that one wrong then. I might just be wrong on that then. I always kind of think of that, and I always think of you.
Is that the one where you control like different vehicles? Like...
Yeah, like different fleets of vehicles and stuff like that. The fact that you can't really remember it says it's not. Compare that to what you do remember. So, of course, Populous at the beginning, a world. And bear in mind, I was aware of things like Age of Empires and all of that existed. You know, these old sort of world-building ones, you know. This love of real-time strategy has rolled into today. I've just spent probably a good 60 to 80 hours playing and completing Townsmen, The Kingdom Rebuilt, and loved every second of that experience because that was kind of what it is. So Populous being what it is was always going to appeal, and I think that's kind of why we kept going back to it and putting up with all this stupid nonsense of what it was like on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a hand to Bullfrog because obviously they also made Theme Park.
Of course, yeah.
And obviously Theme Possible, you know.
Yep.
So respect for that, you know, for a start. You know,
of course,
some great games. But I'm not completely unbiased to Populous. I know his faults.
Of course.
You know, obviously you've already mentioned obviously the slowing down, the really bad. So I know, I mean, terrible. Obviously the saving, the memory cards. That's probably actually, yeah. I mean,
I would throw in the limitations of the levels, the limitation of what you're actually able to do in that game.
there's actually so much you can actually do in the game.
No, you can't. No, we disagree on this. So I actually did go back a while back, gone a few years ago, just to kind of go, and actually did it on PC. Where it's like, okay, right, let's play it how it was supposed to be played. Let's experience it like it's supposed to be and all that kind of thing. And it's obviously way better.
Yeah, of course.
Much improved, different as well. That's the thing, different, because they had to cut quite a lot of corners to get it on PlayStation. And I found it to be quite limiting to the point where I was actually frustrated at times when it came to building and elements like that. It also wasn't as not easy, but as user-friendly as I remember. One thing, again, I'd say about the console is that it was very user-friendly.
Yeah.
Obviously, the limitations, the consoles meant they couldn't do certain things. But it was a lot more user-friendly, I remember, than that. So I didn't really enjoy it in that aspect. It was one of those times when nostalgia didn't live up to... When nostalgia blinded me, and I thought, oh, yeah, this could be fun to go back to. And then I kind of came away and went, nah, not for me. And I'm certainly never, ever... going to play it on the PlayStation again. Like, I have no interest in going and because I just know, like, I don't have the patience for that loading time at all, but also the first time it starts to lag, because it's not like it lags and then picks up.
No.
That is it. And we're not talking about like, oh, a slight little dip in frame rate here or a little bit of slowdown here. We're talking about and that is horrendous. And considering the game requires and relies on a certain level of quick reactions, that's really, really crappy, I think.
I mean, for people who are still playing it, me, there is tips. If it starts doing that, save it, reload it up again. It works fine. I know you got to go through the whole saving and loading.
That's the problem there. I was about to say, like, oh yeah, just save it and reload it. Well, okay, 15 minutes later, I'm playing my game. I've got an hour to play before I have to go to work or I've got to do this.
But
here we are. 5 minutes to fucking get the game started. 5 minutes to get into your old save. You start playing it for 10 minutes. It starts lagging out. You then have to save again. Then quit out. Look, Jesus, the hour's gone.
Of course. But like I said, I do remember you being quite a bully with this game too, actually, at some point.
Yeah. We're kids, yeah.
Because I was so obsessed with the game. I remember there were times when it was saving and you used to pull the fucking memory card out and it corrupted the entire file and I'd start the entire game again.
Yeah, well, that's just...
It was like you and Liam. You used to hold your hand and go, I'm going to pull it out. Like, don't do it, please. Please don't do it. Because I'm sure it was your PlayStation at the time. It was.
Maybe that's why then.
Yeah,
because I didn't want a fucking memory card filled with Populous. Jimmy, because remember as well, as games developed on PlayStation and got bigger near the end of its life, more were taken. It wasn't like, hey, here's a memory card with 15 save files on it. You can save 15 games.
Yeah.
Some were taking 2. Some were taking more and more and more. So the idea of used to just have a memory card that was basically the Populous fucking memory card. That, I think, was always on one of the sort of cheaper ones more than anything else, because who gave a shit?
Yeah.
You know, when it came down to it.
Pretty sure one of you also snapped it. Or
well, you've said this about every game, but you know,
I've replaced it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but probably because we were fighting or whatever stuff that was happening all the time.
But I mean, my love for the game is I mean, the music alone. I'm a lover of music, and if the soundtrack's great in the game, I love the game. And Populous soundtrack, it's obviously repetitive, but I don't know. It's just it always was soothing to me, and.
It's nice that you've got that soothing thing, and because obviously a video game soundtrack will always have a nostalgic value as well, so it's a combination of two. People would say, oh, it's because it reminds you of a better time and stuff like that, but I argue that isn't always necessarily the case, because sometimes, you know, not everything was great when you were younger and stuff like that, but it serves as a reminder for a time when things were less worrisome, as it were, where you could just, as you say, sit there and lose a couple of hours, mainly because of the lag than anything else. But you could lose that time to a game, so I completely understand that. But what I find fascinating about this is because I can relate and understand about the nostalgic value of that experience, but not with this specific game.
Yeah.
That's what it is more than anything else. And I don't dislike Populous. I like it in a way almost because it's one of your favourite games and that you have this value for it. But when I think of Populous and I go, okay, well, in your head, I do hear a specific piece of music. I do hear that. But alongside that, what I also hear is the frustrating, annoying sound effects that come with that. And the fact that you constantly have to your shaman. Your shaman are always constantly making noise. I'm talking about particularly when you have to enter a fight and it's just like, and noises and stuff like that. Which then brings me to my biggest criticism of the game, and I guess where I struggle the most as to why you enjoy it. And I think this might be because you are better than it. So I always remember Populous as being very unbalanced when it came to difficulty. In regard to you, when someone was enter a level and have to deal with a group that was not only ready for you, but was on the attack almost immediately, which is downright absurd. But not only that as well, you could have several factions who are all focused on you instead of each other. That is annoying as hell as well. So what you would end up doing is relying incredibly heavily on your shaman. On the fact that while they would die, they would always respawn, but also they would have abilities that could basically help you deal with the troops that would come in your way constantly, while your people were building shit up and stuff like that. That, to me, is one of the most frustrating things. The fact that as well, because ultimately you're trying to play a game, you're trying to get through it, and you would end up relying not just heavily on the shaman, but also utilising her to deal with almost all the problems. Sometimes trying to be tricky and utilising her to blast the other shaman out into the water so they'd drown and be temporarily dead, which would stop them attacking you and stuff like that. That drops all strategy for me. That doesn't become it's no strategy anymore. And that is an overpowering memory of that game for me.
Yeah, no, I get that, and you are right. I mean, I think there's like 15 or 20 levels in it, but the early levels are quite straightforward and simple. But yeah, I mean, one of the criticisms are the fact that it does seem to happen where they all seem to gang up on you.
Yep.
That does happen. It happens quite a lot. I mean, I've got my own tactics. I've had to avoid that. I used to always sink the land around me. And then they would have no choice but to go for each other's base, and then they would end up fighting each other.
Okay, interesting.
So that would happen. But you are right. Every level you always start off with 2 buildings. They have a fully advanced base.
Yep.
And straight away, my tactic was always, I've got my shaman straight to the front of my base, and she'll stand there and protect my base while I develop. But I mean, as you get into the further, I mean, there's one specific level because it is quite a difficult game.
Yes, it is a difficult game.
The last probably 5-6 levels are very difficult, and one level in particular is called Bloodlist.
Yep.
And it is I love that level because I've got it down to a T. But even now I still fail on it sometimes because it is so difficult. But I just think for me, the game has what I need out of an RTS game.
Okay, so that's quite a broad statement. But the fact that, is it fair to say that there's nothing I can say about the game that would change your mind? Or at least make you go, well, no, okay, maybe it's not as good as I think it is?
Oh, no, obviously, I'm not completely unbiased, because I do know, I know the flaws of the game. But the flaws... So my love for the game outweigh the flaws.
Yeah.
And I can... Obviously, I play more advanced games. I play Rome Total War, which is 10 times better than Populous.
Of course.
Graphics-wise. But if they re-release Populous...
Gameplay-wise, man. Don't just say graphics-wise. Gameplay-wise. Let's be serious.
If they release Populous tomorrow for 50 quid, I'll buy it. Straight away tomorrow.
Even if it was just a remastering?
Yes, remastering. They could have released the PS1 version on the Game Pass. I'll download it. Because I would love to play that game. And just could you imagine 20 gamer score for using your first volcano?
No, I can't, because I don't want to. I don't want to. That is one of the... I understand...
You'll play it. If it was on the Game Pass,
of course.
you'll play it.
But only... certainly not if it was just a re-release.
No.
No, I would expect a But no, truth be told, I think that, for starters, that genre, that franchise is dead.
Yeah.
But also, there's absolutely no... there are a million games... well, maybe not a million, but many, many games I would prefer to have remade, remastered, or re-released. That Populous at the beginning is not high on my priority list.
Is Bullfrog even around?
No, they're long gone. They're long gone. They're long gone. But you don't need them. Of course you don't need them, that kind of thing. So it's not about that. But yeah, this would never be of interest to me beyond the fact that, that'd be cool if it was, like I said, a remake, a re-release, whatever. But already, it would have to be completely different because games, real-time strategy, have already surpassed it in gameplay. If you were just... they're not going to do it just for you. Do you see what I mean? That's the problem. You need other people to play it. And there was never going to be that big of an appeal. I'll imagine that many people, if you're watching this, who share the same, well, you're the same age, so you know this game, whatever. I reckon your experience might, and if you have played it, your experience might be wildly different to yours in the fact that I reckon there's just as many people who hate it because of all the issues that has been highlighted here. You joke and you say, oh, imagine an achievement for creating your first volcano. You said that the first thing I thought was, I'm pretty sure that was the moment where I thought my PlayStation was about to explode the first time the volcano went off. The sound of the fan going, fuck, I can't keep up with this, as the game just breaks down like a freaking broken, like a car running out of goddamn gas.
It has its faults, of course it does.
Yeah, we know this, and we've just gone through all these bloody faults. But the point of this was, I want this conversation to be as much about your experience. It's not like me trying to talk you out of the quality of it. I thought it was an interesting one to start with because it's notoriously one of your favourite games that almost nobody else to do with GBHBL has an agreement with. Normally, when we say, oh, it's one of my favourite type of games, we can all relate to some way, whatever game we're talking to. With Populous at the beginning, there is nothing. There is no way to relate here. And it's one from it's an old game as well, because you could do that with modern games and say, oh, well, this is one of my all-time favourite games, but you've never played it, so then that's why. But this is something we're all acutely aware of, yet we don't have nowhere the interest that you do. And my intrigue or memories of it are completely based around nostalgia more than anything else, but nostalgia that I don't think lives up.
That's your opinion.
Well, yes, it is my opinion.
But, I said, I'm hopeful they'll maybe do a re-release.
No, they won't.
20 years for Chevy 3.
That's so different, though.
Obviously, I know I'm clutching at major straws.
You're not clutching major straws. You've not even got any fucking straws.
Who knows?
The field's on fire, Damon.
The guys that made £2 Hospital, £2 Canvas, they might go, do you know what? We might be Populous.
No. It's already been way too long. It's already been way too long for that. I mean, this isn't clutching at straws, Damon. Like I said, the field is on fire. Yeah. You're running around screaming about Populous while everybody watches and laughs. That's literally what's going on here. It's not happening. Dream on. Play your bloody stupid PlayStation version. I think that's what I'll always come back to. That my favourite thing, because I do have favourite things about Populous, and it's the fact that this game exists on the PlayStation 1.
Yep.
And with it comes this incredible layers of crap. There's utter problems, issues that say this shouldn't be on a fucking console, at least not the PlayStation, yet it does. I think that's hilarious.
I do agree, but as I said, I played it on the PC, and obviously, of course, I enjoyed it on the PC, obviously, because of better graphics. But I still prefer the PS1 version.
Prefer,
yeah.
Okay.
Because obviously, that's the game that I played the most. It gave me the most experience for. I mean, obviously, Command & Conquer was the first real-time strategy I played.
Warcraft was first.
Was it Warcraft?
Yeah, Warcraft 2, The Dark Side.
I'm going to say something very, very, very controversial here. I put Populous above both of them. Do you know? If I had a choice between those three games, I would choose Populous first.
That's
I know you because it's the game that brings me a lot of enjoyment. The amount of times I can play it.
Do you want to take that back? I can understand, right? I could say, right, and be happy to say and go, you know what, fine. Populous over Warcraft, fair enough. Populous over Command and Conquer.
We're talking like we're talking like 100 and then 99. That's what I'm talking between.
Yeah, but you're still putting it above it. That's what I'm saying.
I am only because the fact that if they're sitting in front of me right now, I would choose to play that.
What, Populous over Command & Conquer?
Yeah, would you? Yeah.
That's insane. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with it? Are you one of the rare people like Damon? Are you a huge fan of this? Do you agree with everything he said? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?